That is not true. Is that what you're going to tell me now?
That is not true.
Are you stupid?
Hold on.
Oh, you need to leave.
Wait. There's more.
Wait, there's more. Hello, Alycia.
Hey, Christine. How you doing?
I'm good.
Ready for another episode?
I am, as you can see. This is the Aiden Hutchinson Detroit Lion football jersey. Because today we're talking about something near and dear to my heart, Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Now, we're going to start lighthearted. I doubt it's going to stay that way. But this is what I would wear on Thanksgiving. So I felt like it was appropriate.
Now, why is that so special for you?
Oh,
for
why
people
is
who
Thanksgiving?
don't know.
Oh, okay,
I mean,
for people that don't.
For people who don't know you, why?
Okay. So since 1934, which I was not alive for, since 1934, the Detroit Lions have played on Thanksgiving Day. And so it is a big deal. My dad went to the games when he was little. I did not go to the games when I was little. I'm not sure what my dad was thinking. He chose not to continue that tradition.
Oh.
But once I got my own money and a driver's license, I went to the games on Thanksgiving. It's just a fun thing to do if you're from Detroit. It's tradition. You know, I don't get to go now because I'm not in Detroit, but I still watch every Thanksgiving. Hopefully it's a good day and a good win. Lately it has been, but there have been other days where I have sat and looked at the TV with tears in my eyes saying, well, that coach will be fired. And they were. So
you knew what was coming.
Oh, I did. Oh, I did.
Thanksgiving has this special meaning for you because of your love of the Detroit Lions and that they play every Thanksgiving. There are lots of critiques that have been coming out in more recent years about the American celebration of Thanksgiving, and that's what we're going to unpack today.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah. Now, this is a podcast about religious rejects, and so I just do want to point out that Thanksgiving is not actually in the Bible.
Preach. Yeah. Preach.
It is not a religious holiday.
Right.
Even though some churches do have a service that day. But it is a fully secular holiday.
Yes.
So,
yes.
First off, we just need to make that very clear that despite some efforts, it is not a religious holiday.
Right. And it is something that celebrates just being thankful and grateful and having gratitude, which is great. But if you only do that one day a year, you know, I think it's more of a time to just focus on the gratitude, but also to kind of look over the whole year and maybe make it a practice.
I thought you were going to say just to focus on football. And
no.
I was really sure that was what was coming next.
I mean, I do. Yeah. And some days I'm not grateful for what has happened.
People talk about how it's a harvest festival, things like that it's, you know, part of that tradition. And yet part of what we're going to talk about today is the underside of history, as many people call it, and the real truth about Thanksgiving, and not the mythology that has been created around the quote-unquote first Thanksgiving and the practices ever since. So let's get into it.
Yeah, and what people are doing today.
Absolutely.
To change.
Yes.
Okay, we know that once upon a time, a boat showed up at Plymouth Rock full of holy people, Puritans, that decided to get off the boat and make a new start of their life.
And not in Virginia, but Plymouth Rock.
Plymouth Rock.
That is another piece that often gets confusing, is that there was a whole other thing that happened in Virginia.
Oh, I did not know that. I mean, there's Jamestown,
right?
You're talking about, and then this is Massachusetts. Yeah. Okay. What supposedly happened, or at least what I remember being taught, is that these European white people showed up, were not prepared necessarily for what they were going to encounter as far as how they were going to eat, how are they going to take care of themselves, how they were going to provide shelter for themselves, what kind of weather that they were going to be in for.
Yeah.
And there was a group of Indians that had already lived there, and there was this supposedly beautiful moment of the Indians coming and trying to teach them how to live on the land. And in response, the Pilgrims then created a big feast of all the things that they had grown or cooked or whatever, and had a beautiful moment of kumbaya and had a meal together.
Yes.
Okay. But that is not true. Is that what you're going to tell me now?
That is not true.
Okay.
So most of what we know about that early Thanksgiving and early American settlers, first of all, the people that came over were Puritans searching for religious freedom, which is ironic because then they were not interested in offering religious freedom to the indigenous people who were already living here.
Right.
So in 1620, the Pilgrims came, they landed in Plymouth Rock, they established a colony and began farming. The following year, they had a bountiful harvest, according to the Journal of William Bradford, the first governor of Plymouth, Massachusetts. So they had this amazing harvest. They decided to have a harvest festival, a 3-day festival. What many people believe now is that the Wampanoag people were not actually invited, but that they heard gunshots going off and they had a mutual aid agreement with the Pilgrims to come to each other's defense if something happened.
Okay.
So they heard the gunshots going off. They thought there was some sort of an attack happening against the Pilgrims, and they showed up. And so they sent about 90 soldiers to the settlers' aid. And then that was how they showed up at the event.
Okay.
So they weren't even invited.
Okay.
Apparently.
Yeah. Okay. That's sad.
It is sad.
Yeah.
The other thing that's really interesting is that, which I had not known, and I'm embarrassed to admit this, but I did not know this, that the Wampanoag, that they had at least 2 people who spoke English before the Pilgrims showed up, because there had been about 100 years of contact at that point with people from Europe and from England. And so some of the indigenous people had already been to Europe and come back and been to England and come back.
Okay.
And they spoke English. So that also is very interesting. These were well-seasoned diplomats from the indigenous tribe.
Got it.
From the Wampanoags. These were diplomats who knew European intentions and what the English were wanting to do, coming.
Okay.
And they were trying to figure out, how do we survive in the midst of this? So,
Okay.
and part of the problem that happened is that some of the first people who came brought smallpox. And so that decimated the tribes that they encountered. And so when the English showed up in certain places and there was no one around, and it was just like, oh, look at this, no one lives here. No one owns this. No one has this. And it's because a previous ship had come, had released smallpox, had killed the whole village, basically. So it's a heart-rending story, really. And especially when you look at it from including the truth of what happened from the Wampanoag and other tribes' perspectives, and not just the Pilgrims' perspective.
So fast forward to 1863, we have just now finished a civil war.
Well, hold on.
Oh, wait.
Wait. There's more.
Wait, there's
so
more.
They did not even know that this had happened.
Who's they?
The Americans that established the United States of America. An editor of a magazine discovered, quote unquote, discovered, but became aware of William Bradford's journal. She started reading it. She was like, oh, well, we should have this event. And so then she published it in the magazine. And that's when people started calling for a national celebration of a Thanksgiving version that was according to the Pilgrims, not from the Wampanoag perspective. But so that started before that, which then led to what you're talking about.
Yeah. So the next thing then that happens is that the holiday then is nationalized in 1863 by President Lincoln, hoping to bring everybody together after a very brutal, bloody Civil War. So he decides that they're going to make it a holiday, and not as a celebration of pilgrims, but more over a let's just be grateful and thankful for what we have and who we are, which is great. And I love that thought. Again, as you pointed out, not necessarily scriptural, but very, very healthy, I think, until it then becomes about almost 4th of July-ish. And it's our national identity now of having Thanksgiving, you have to do it. Kind of a thing. But we'll get into that later.
And the other thing that was challenging from indigenous perspectives in the United States was that just the year before, Abraham Lincoln had executed 38 Lakota Sioux warriors because more and more pioneers were coming in and taking land away from the tribes in the Midwest.
Right.
They finally had enough. They rose up. They fought off some of the settlers that had moved in, and were very successful for a period of time. But then the army was sent in, and then they captured quite a few warriors. They captured a lot more than 38, but in the end, Abraham Lincoln commuted the sentences of some of the warriors, but did require the execution of 38 warriors the year before. So anyone who was of an indigenous background would likely have known about it if they had access to the news in the eastern part of the United States. And so I don't think that they would have wanted to participate in this attempt at national, quote unquote, national unity.
Agreed.
And bringing people together after so many people had been executed the year before for standing up for themselves. So
for all of those reasons, I think the last couple of years for me, Thanksgiving has been, I love the day. But I love the day because, there's family involved, we get to see people, we get to watch football, we get to eat. But there was a while there that it just felt like you had to celebrate. You had to celebrate it a certain way. You had to have turkey. I don't really like turkey, if I'm honest.
Well, it takes a little bit of work to actually cook it right and cook it well enough that you want to eat it.
Well, yeah. And now
it's done.
I mean, to be fair, I can do that. I did a beautiful champagne-based turkey one year. I mean, and I think that's, that's what happens is like, I don't want to do turkey. It's so boring. So I would look up all these recipes. I did a brandy one.
Wow.
One year. Yeah, I got it all drunk. It was great. And so just a few years ago, we just decided, you know what? We're not doing turkey anymore. Nobody likes it in our house.
Yeah.
So we had like a taco bar one year.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
Yeah.
Well, this is another point of debate that many scholars who have done the work, they don't believe probably that it was turkey that was eaten. It was probably duck or other fowl.
Right.
So, this mythologizing as the American understanding of Thanksgiving has a fair amount of falsehoods is what it sounds like.
It does.
So
yeah.
Part of the issue is that you've got some people who are very into the celebration, and it's really about this national identity of the United States. And then you have other people, particularly those who are indigenous in the United States, who see it only as a heart-rending, heartbreaking, sorrowful day because of so much of what they've lost in the history that they've endured at the hands of the Europeans who have come to this continent. So what are some of the things that you've seen people, how they've been reacting to some of those changes?
I just heard about the National Day of Mourning.
Yeah.
Which started apparently in 1970 at Plymouth, in Plymouth, Massachusetts, and with the Wampanoag tribe. You talked earlier how sad it is that there's so many things we don't know. This has been happening since my birth, okay? Not to tell everybody how old I am, but yeah, 1970 is a key year.
But you are.
But yeah, so for 50 years, this has been happening. I've never heard about it until we started doing this.
Yeah.
And it's just a day where people gather together there. There's just remembering the ancestors of those people that were lost when that boat docked, if you will.
Yeah.
And it's just like, wow, like I didn't even think about that. And I guess there's also other places that do something called, well, Alcatraz has a big gathering.
Oh.
The Alcatraz Sunrise Gathering.
Okay.
They call it the most prominent Unthanksgiving Day.
Unthanksgiving Day. Okay, yes.
Yes. And they gather together, the indigenous groups gather together at sunrise. And I just think that's so great. So they're almost like trying to take that day back. And while one direction is we've taken that day and we celebrate what we now know is just horrific things, it feels like indigenous groups are trying to take it back and go, oh no, let's not forget what actually happened. And I think that's a great thing. I know that this the Day of Mourning, apparently it live streams every year.
Oh wow.
I know. So hopefully we can get that information in our show notes. And so if you want to watch the live stream from Plymouth Rock, I mean, that would be fascinating to me.
Yeah.
You know, what a great way to remember. You know, and in this day and age, in this current culture and administration, there's a lot of trying to clean up the history. Whereas people we had been finally like getting to the truth or as close as we could to the truth of some of the horrific things that happened in the foundation of this country. And now people are trying to pull that back and tell us, no, that's not the story. This is the real story.
Museums and parks and things like that are having to, people can turn them in and say where they're not being supportive of the United States or saying something that's anti-American or something like that. I guess it all depends on how you define what it means to be an American, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
And the administration has one understanding of it. And I would imagine that the Wampanoag people have a very different understanding of what it means to be an American.
Absolutely. That's why for me, I really want to watch this because it might not be around. And that's the same reason I went last Easter to the Museum for African American History and Culture because I had a feeling it was going to be gutted. And I wanted to experience from top to bottom the whole thing. And so there's a part of me that says, I'm going to try to live stream this and hopefully it won't, but I mean the game, but I'm sure.
You're sure you can work it out somehow?
I'm pretty sure. I have multiple TVs.
Oh my gosh, really?
Oh yeah. Yeah. Multiple TVs in one room because, well, I mean, on Thanksgiving, there's only one game to watch, but
wow.
But during the normal football, you got to have all the TVs of all the games on. But yeah, okay.
Don't miss an episode. Hit subscribe now.
As I was reflecting on this message for today, and thinking about the actual versus mythologized history of Thanksgiving in this country, a version of the real Thanksgiving of what really happened when Europeans encountered the Wampanoag people, that unfolded with every single tribe across this country, across the land.
Yeah.
Now, the details were different, and yet the end result was the same, where they lost their sovereignty, which they've been fighting for so long now, ever since. They lost their land. They lost food sources. Many people lost their lives, their loved ones, their communities.
Yeah, because they didn't have these diseases until the white people showed up.
Right.
And I did hear something, this is horrifying, but also hilarious, that the Indians actually had to teach the Pilgrims how to clean and bathe themselves.
Yes. Gross, right?
Right.
Yeah. Because the Europeans, the English, they didn't bathe very often because they thought it wasn't very good for them, that it would make them sick.
Yeah.
But then
the opposite.
All the indigenous tribes thought they were so dirty and smelly when they encountered them. which I totally understand.
Yeah, right? And yet, who are the heathens?
Yeah, right.
Like, really?
Exactly.
Ugh.
And then the other part of Thanksgiving that has become even more of a big deal I would say probably in my lifetime, is this whole Black Friday thing, where Thanksgiving becomes this like deal, like, the Friday after Thanksgiving would be this deal finding day. So you can show up early, get in line and find super low cost, whatever, in preparation for Christmas. And those sales have, backed up more and more. So now they start like Thursday night at midnight or even Thursday evening. And it's just gotten crazier and crazier. And so now I know that, so in some ways that's its own sort of holiday in addition to this Thanksgiving holiday, but it's a completely made up consumer holiday of just buying cheap stuff.
Yeah.
That probably most of us don't need.
Well, and that's the irony of it. You're supposed to stop and be grateful and thankful one day and then knock a bitch down for that TV the next day.
That's my TV!
Like,
what? Get out of my way!
I mean, like,
do you have any more in the back?
I mean,
wow. I know.
And we just go along with it and nobody questions. And I think that's what I'm really enjoying, like, lately. Like, can we stop? Can we just stop for a second? And I have been somebody that has had to work Black Fridays. It's hard. It is really hard. And now it's extended even more, although I'm okay with this one, but now you have Black Friday and then you have Small Business Saturday, which is great because I like that the focus is on the actual businesses that help their local communities.
Right.
But now you've got torturous football game on Thursday.
Oh, well, yeah.
Then I have to go right into Black Friday and then Small Business Saturday.
Yeah.
Usually by Sunday, I'm like, I don't want to talk to anybody. And so it's not very fun. And I actually, outside of the 3 hours, which it could go either way, outside of like, being with the family. And we do a really fun thing on Thanksgiving. And I do love that. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But it's just like, gratitude? Weren't we supposed to be focused on something? I mean, I get to Sunday night and I don't even know what my name is.
Well, by Sunday night, you have to be getting ready for now Cyber Monday because, the whole weekend keeps going.
That's right.
You just have more opportunity to buy stuff online than on Cyber Monday. So,
And there's so much stress.
Yeah.
Because what you're really doing is you're trying to get all these gifts for Christmas because that's the moment that, Christmas shopping really begins in earnest. And then it's just, it really is interesting.
It's a strange.
It is what we've done to it.
Strange weekend all around.
So when my husband and I got married, we were poor and we were Bible college students. And we kind of got into the Bible college at the very, very last minute, if you will. So we had to take whatever apartment was left. And it turned out that it was a 3-bedroom apartment and it was just us.
Wow.
So it was a little bit bigger than the normal apartments, but we had no place to live. And so we took it. We were like, okay, great. But because of all that, because we had just gotten married and we got married in August, so there was no money to go back to wherever we were from. I was from Michigan, he was from LA. We weren't going back to do Thanksgiving with anybody. There was also a dorm for single kids. And the single kids, there was just like us, they didn't have money necessarily. Yeah. And again, Thanksgiving's a real short weekend, technically, the plane tickets and prices are so high. So we were sitting in our apartment and we had met some single kids that weren't going home for Thanksgiving and said something to the effect of like, well, we should just have you guys over. And I think it was more of they also didn't have TVs. And I was like, well, we have a TV and I'm watching the game. And so they were like, oh, can we come? And I was like, yeah, okay. So it started that we were going to just have a big Thanksgiving meal together.
Mm.
But here's the thing, especially when you're dealing with a bunch of young men, they want to eat as much as they can, especially home cooked meals.
Oh, yeah.
So some of them got into this idea that, well, we should really have breakfast together first because you don't want to just starve yourself. You need to have a big breakfast so you expand your stomach so you can eat more later.
Oh, wow.
So I was like,
Oh, my goodness.
okay. And some of these guys had worked at like a restaurant, a diner. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's do breakfast. We'll do breakfast. So they all came over. We made omelets. And so many people showed up. I mean, it was just all these single kids. And we were just like, yeah, whoever wants to come, wants to come. And that started 31 years ago. We started making omelets for breakfast on Thanksgiving. And that has continued. We don't even do like the Thanksgiving meal anymore. We still do
The omelet.
the omelets. And we've only missed 1 year, and that was 2020.
Oh, yeah.
And but yeah, it's just crazy. So now we just like to, and that's what we tell people: come over, have an omelet, get your stomach ready for the rest of the day, stretch it out.
And then go home before the football game.
Yes, I do try to get people out of my house before that. I tell them that, you know, because it works out well because most people are going somewhere or they've got like something in the oven. So I'm like, just come over, I'll feed you, and then get out. And then the game starts. But there are people that have heard about me and how I interact with the television
Yes.
during a Lions game, and out of pure curiosity,
They
want
around.
to see if it's true.
The real life Christine.
Yes, of me yelling idiots at the TV, and yeah. So that's been a thing too. So now I have people that just stay, and then they get bored of me after a while, and then they start talking. And then I'm like, you need to leave.
Right. Because you're like, I'm
I need
actually
to
here for the
focus.
game.
I am focused.
Yeah.
So,
So
so then usually they leave, and then I usually sleep and try to get ready for the next 3 days. So it works out.
totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I think the idea of giving thanks and having a time of gratitude, there's nothing wrong with that per se. I think the pieces that are complicated are these myths about what Thanksgiving was about
Yes.
and what it should mean today. I think that there's other ways to explore gratitude and giving thanks, but not necessarily in the context of a Thanksgiving.
Right.
There's a couple of things that people can do instead of only thinking about it at Thanksgiving. Some people, every day, they write down 3 things that they are grateful for, and that, makes it a more integrated part of their everyday life rather than just a once a year kind of thing. And I like that idea too, that is where it's throughout the year and not just once a year.
Mm-hmm. I'm also seeing that some people are adding what they're calling a truth-telling element, which could go either way. Let's just be clear.
Yeah.
But this is more about where they're learning about local tribes and things that happen in their area to the indigenous peoples, so they can say, let's stand on truth. This is what actually happened to these people in our area, kind of a thing, just to kind of continue to move away from the myth that everything was honky-dory,
Right.
and whatever,
Yeah.
all that stuff, which I think that's actually fascinating, which is why I'm kind of thinking that it might be fun to have, not fun, but might be impactful to have the streaming event from the day of mourning. I'm very interested in that.
Yeah. Because we don't have a day where we acknowledge the reality of what happened to the people who are already here.
Right.
Some of whom, some tribes, there's archaeological evidence of various places of, and in that area, I think the Wampanoag, they were there for at least 12,000 years. There's evidence now that, in some parts of Western America and South America, 18,000, 20,000, 21,000 years that some of these people have been here, these tribes and the ancestors of the tribes who are currently still here, and so there's such a sense of pride on the part of Europeans, and it's just, I can understand how it can turn the stomachs of other people who were here first, all of the people and everything that they've lost. And so I can understand why people do that. The other thing that I've also heard of people doing is supporting like indigenous businesses, indigenous nonprofits, so that you're giving to the communities. If you're a person of European descent, you're giving to the communities that were harmed by your ancestors who came to the country and did harm. And so it's not that you yourself did the harm,
right,
but you are helping to support communities now that are continuing to live with the harm that has been done by your own ancestors who came before. So,
right. And then there's lots of people that just choose not to have a traditional Thanksgiving meal in their home with their family, but will go to a homeless shelter or somewhere and serve other people, which is a much better way to, if you think about it, be grateful for what we have by giving away to somebody else.
Yeah, to serve people who are hungry, to serve people who are in need. I know there were some years when I lived in Austin, I would do the turkey trot every year, and it was a fundraiser for a food bank. Those kinds of things I think are still popular in lots of places around the country. So
I can't even imagine getting up and running. Of course, I'm just tired thinking about Thanksgiving now because of all the stuff that I do. But so for me, it's like people would ask me, like, you want to do a turkey trot? And I was like, are you stupid? No. Like, unless I had like Thursday or Friday and Saturday off, but no.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. Anyway, so Thanksgiving is complicated for me. I both love it and
hate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for tuning in. Up next, will the rejects keep, rethink, or reject today's topic? Stay with us.
What are you thinking as far as keep, rethink, reject at this point?
Well, I absolutely want to reject the myth that everything was honky-dory and everything was lovely and everybody was happy. I think that's so harmful. I want to keep the idea of being grateful. I think that's something incredibly important that we all need to get into the practice of being grateful, whether it is with a gratitude journal or something else, or just giving, or just, texting friends and going, I'm so grateful for you. Thank you. So those are the things that I want. I don't know if there's anything I want to rethink. My life choices for picking this team. I don't know. I'm not sure.
I don't know. I think you were born into that.
I was. Yeah.
You inherited that love for that team.
Yeah, I did.
That love, that insanity, whatever you want to call it.
That's good.
I also reject the idea of the myth, and I reject, the idea that it's any kind of religious holiday, obviously. And I'm rethinking a lot of things about my own complicity as a person of European descent in perpetuating the harm that has been done to Indigenous communities. And so that's been something I've been doing a lot of rethinking about the last couple of years especially. And I think that's going to affect how I take a mark of the day of the national holiday, Thanksgiving, and change how I recognize it, And it's something that I want to continue to learn about, and I want to continue to do what I can to support Indigenous communities today in their real life challenges, and not just assume things or, come in with what they call the white savior complex or whatever, but really just supporting people where they are and in what they ask help for, in supporting them in their lives today and what they need. And so there's a lot for me about rethinking Thanksgiving and what it means and how I will celebrate it or recognize it or commemorate it or whatever you want to call it in the years to come.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's it. But there is one thing that we are very grateful for.
Yes.
And that's for all of you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining us. Please, if you like what you hear, hit subscribe, and we will see you again next time.
And if you would like to help support us in an even more fantastic way than just subscribing, you can share the episode with your best friend.
Who you're grateful for.
Share it with them and then tell them how grateful you are for them. We'll see you next time.
Bye.